if you are consistently doing one particular kind of exercise. So this goes back to when people say, how do you become good at anything? And they say, oh, practice, practice, practice. And nobody tells you what you need to practice. And that always frustrated me. So what I found from my own experiences, if you do even a small exercise in doodle art, which is making consistent, small, short lines, very controlled lines, you start building up like the abs on your palms. My kids' class very jokingly started calling them pabs. So when your pabs become stronger, you are able to hold the pencil much more surely. And the second part is when you've drawn a certain number of lines, you can preempt what is going to happen on paper. So you don't have to make the line and then wonder whether it is right or wrong. You know how it's going to progress. That is what the practice is. It's not just about drawing lines, but being focused about where that practice is going to take you. So this is a small part of the practice, but it is very beneficial. So I'm going to try and send you like a big dump of the graphics that we have done till today, which is like the last 25 days. Actually, you can go on Instagram and you will find all the doodles of the day on Instagram, one after the other. So you can just follow that. And I'll put you on the group now so that the next 5 days at least you can start. So I wanted to give this preamble because there has been a huge response to the doodle of the day. More than numbers, it is the impact that it has created in many people's process for art. They see themselves doing something consistently every day, which they did not do before. They're also finding that they're able to visualize a lot of things in outside of the doodle by doing the doodle. So there are quite a few interesting, I guess, experiences people are sharing. And of course, now they hate the fact that in 5 days the month is going to be over, and then what are we going to do after this? This is like after your college is over and you say, okay, now what? Now I don't have to go anywhere at 7 o'clock in the morning. What am I going to do? So, in order to keep this momentum going for the next month, I'm going to give everyone a quote. So, we are going to do lettering today, which will help you to create small quotes on post-its. Now, why post-its? Because it is a small space. If the moment you start taking up large projects for yourself, you can throw consistency out of the window. You need to start with something small that you can do every day. So this is what, a 2-inch by 2-inch square. Even if you can do this every day for a whole year, you will have done much more for your art practice than making one large painting with a lot of detailing, but only one of those, even every month, is still not going to be enough practice. So we're going to keep our steps small and keep growing consistently further and further towards better lines. But I also want to give you a target. I want to give you certain aspects of each of these practices, whether it's doodle art, whether it is lettering, and God knows what we're going to do later on in May, that you need to focus on and get better at. That is again what I mean by focused practice. You need to know what are the factors where you find yourself doing perfectly okay, and there are certain factors that you didn't even realize you could focus on and make them okay. So what are the steps you need to follow? That is what I want to cover today. And this is all going to be related to lettering. So I'm a compulsive letterer. I mean, I'll find a reason to letter for no reason at all also. Like our bell switched off a couple of days ago. People could have just made an arrow pointing to the bell that works. But no, I had to write some quote about that. And I'm going to send you a picture of what I have done and put some pictures and all. And I feel it becomes my moral duty that if I can get something artistic out, even if it is just to show people where the bell is, I have to do it. Otherwise, what is my point on this planet? So that is how I get my practice in. Now, I want you to be I want all of you to learn to enjoy lettering just as much as I do because of a couple of factors. One is you can express yourselves in many ways than just your written handwriting word. And with that, you elevate yourself or at least distinguish yourself from everyone else who can write around you. Why would your writing be more compelling? At least the way it looks can make it more compelling. Then, of course, we have our own need to work towards writing better as well. I sometimes feel if you can make something beautiful, you also feel that what it represents must also be beautiful. So you will start consciously looking for words, for statements, sentences that are more are deeper, that make better impact. They are just more beautiful, slightly a level above what you normally do. And believe me, I think you can spend a lifetime making everything just slightly better every day. No matter how good you think you are, I'm sure you think I can do better than that, and you think that there's somebody who is already at that level. So we're going to start off with first uh, gauging where we are in this whole lettering business. We have done quite a bit in the past 3 weeks. So, Swati, don't worry about that right now. But I just want you to do a very simple lettering for a quote that I'm going to give you. So, you don't have to think about that. And I want to see how, if you were given complete freedom to make a quote your way, how you would do it. This will give us a base level of where we are. And then I can show you some principles which you need to follow. Well, not follow actually. I hate to say follow in art because it's just to be aware. And then you can do whatever you want. Either you can follow them and you know how to predict an outcome from that, or you don't follow it and then you know that you're actually disrupting what the common norm is. Right? So I came across this very cute quote. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write it down as normal as I can, but I realize that I hate writing normal, so I'll do something to it, but it won't be very decorative. I might just make some layout out of it. You can make it that way, or you can just write it in one sentence. I leave that to you. After which, we'll take about 5-10 minutes if you want to give you time to write it the way you want it. I'm not going to write it before you. And after you all are done, I will write it my way. And then I'm going to get all of you to evaluate what works and what doesn't work. But be kind to yourself. Just because I'm writing it a certain way doesn't mean I am right and that's the only way to do it. What you have done will certainly have some things right that appeal to you. That is why you have made it. So do give that some marks, some points. Okay. So here's our quote. I'm just writing it in the top left corner, and then we will make a square below that in which you will write your composition. If you want, you can make the composition of letters first and then make the square, up to you. I usually make the square first to give myself that limitation and then think about the composition. So the quote is, create the things you wish existed. It's simple enough. It's just 6 words. So I'm not making it a post-it size really, but something equivalent to that. Just a large enough square to practice limiting your writing to just so much space. So I'm not going to give you too many instructions at this stage. We will just wait for 10 minutes for everyone. I think that should be enough. But if you finish earlier, please let me know. Then we can continue. How's it going? All good? Another 5 minutes?
Nearly done.
Okay. Let me know when you're done. Okay, while you guys are finishing yours, I will also start making. Should take 2 minutes myself. Actually, I'm gonna wait for you guys to finish. Then I will show you. Oh, let's see. Okay, very nice. 1 second, Elaine. Let's put it up. Let's all see it. Can you see it?
Not very nice, just
No, this is very sweet. Okay, good. But I'm sure you're happy with the running hand and lots of balance I can already see. All right, so I'm going to start off demonstrating and also writing the letters. So I'm going to cover a few points that we should think about. And these, excuse me, these come to me because of my graphic design background. I wish we were taught something like this than physics in school, because I don't know what I did with my physics. But this is something that I feel everyone could have used, because I'm sure all of you might have been asked to do some project for somebody at some point where you have to make a poster or whatever, and then you're at a complete loss because you don't know the first thing about how poster making works. So, decorative lettering is mostly pictures that talk. There are ways in which fonts are designed so that they will create a certain emotion in you. And these are things that Of course, graphic designers know because that is what they do. They work with fonts and pictures and creating that for you. But it is not very difficult for you also to look at certain fonts and feel something. It is not just because you have training in something that you will feel a font has to behave a certain way. You automatically have those emotions. So, the few things that I can tell you are very mechanical rules that work because that is how we read. That is how our brain understands text and information that is given through text of different types. So, the first thing to know is there is something called an alignment. So, since all of you, I'm sure, must have worked on some kind of word processing software, you will know that text can be aligned to the left column or centered or to the right column. So, this is something that you must also note for where how you want to write your handwritten words. Just because we write them by hand does not mean we don't give a thought to alignments. The first thing to do is understand alignment and predict where your or how your letters are going to be. In alignment, you have three types. You have left, which will be all the lines on the left hand side, and then there's always a short line on the left to tell you that this is how the alignment will be. Then you have right, where all these lines are now aligned, stacked up evenly from the right, and then you have the center, which will be all stacked up in such a way that the center line of all of them is one below the other. So this is alignment. Now the second principle to follow is size and proportion. Again, this is a very important function of lettering, but we don't know exactly how this should work. When we are working on a format like your a small quote written on a small paper, you need to keep sizes of all the different letters in a certain proportion. So while you can easily decide that, okay, I have the size of my post-it is about this big, so my letters have to be so big or whatever, that is one thing easily managed. But how do you know what proportion you must have? So the one that works best is a 1:3 proportion. Your smallest letter should not be smaller than 1/3 of the largest letter, or the largest letters should not be more than 3 times the smallest letter. So small or smallest to largest. And it can be in between. That is not a problem. So 1:2 is fine, 1:1 is fine, 1:2.5 is fine. But when it starts becoming more than 1:3, there is a certain loss of information. And I'll demonstrate this to you as we go along. Then the next thing is hierarchy of letters. And this hierarchy is of words in statement. So when you have a statement like this, create the things you wish existed. We have to establish a hierarchy of importance of some words over other words. Not everything needs to be written in the same size. So you determine the size and therefore the proportion based on a hierarchy. So you have words that are most important that you can distinguish by changing their size or color or placement, maybe texture, and beyond this, you can do anything you want. So any kind of variable beyond this is fine. So why I put texture separately is because it's you can just go on and say, okay, should I put a texture? Should I make it like a doodle? Should I put like an animal texture on it? It can just go on. As long as it stays distinguished from the other letters for a particular purpose, you can change the hierarchy as well. So these are some basics, and there could be many more. If I think of more, I'll come and put them on this list. So keeping this in mind, I'm going to create one composition. So in our statement, I can give different words different meanings, and every one of us reads the sentence differently. So we will give some words some significance, other words less significance. For me, the word that is most important would be create. I can relate to that more than any other, so I will make it rather big. And of course, this lettering is absolutely my go to. So, even in my sleep, if you ask me to make some lettering, I'm just going to do it this way. So, I've not given that too much of thought. That's also one thing you should have, one lettering style that is simple and effective, contemporary, that you can use for anything.
I really like the style, but it doesn't come out like you write it. It's always untidy, and the bits that fit in between, like the A and the R, there'll be some gadbad. I think I just
Yeah,
need to practice it a lot. Yeah.
exactly.
And the size of the thickness, it keeps differing, so it doesn't look nice.
It's taken me 25 years to come.
Yes, I need
I can
practice.
tell you it is tough and it's crazy. Okay, so then after this, I can write words like the thing or wish as the next things that could be important, but maybe I also want to see how many lines or how I want to fit it. Should I write it, create the things you wish existed, or the things, or create the things big and you wish existed in one line? All of that can also be thought out. Now, also alignment. Do I want it aligned to the left, right, or center? I usually like center aligned. So, suppose I write the word existed below, and I want to have it center aligned, but I don't want it to go all the way to the ends. I want to keep a little bit of space from the sides. So, in either case, I can write the letter S in the center. And I'm deliberately making it slightly slimmer than the word create because that is the letter in the center of this word. And then I write the letters on the right first because I'm more confident of that. And place them evenly. This is very easy to do if you do it slowly. And now this is again practice that you should try to do. One is always write the word in rough. I cannot spell words backwards, so after STED, I will go EXI, and that is it. That will end the word for me. So I write, and then one by one, I start making letters in the opposite direction. X is a terrible word. I am practice letter to write, but I will not consider it small to make this little.
That's the reason I didn't. When I went to existed, I said the X in capital in block. No, let me just do it running.
Yeah,
It's a
this one
very difficult proportion.
Yeah, this was the last one that I managed anyway. So I know it's a very fresh victory for me. So I try to not mess with it too much. And you can always use a pencil for one word at a time. Okay, see the problem? Something went wrong over here. So obviously I did not.
No, you will have lots of place to fill in graphic.
No, that is
These
a separate
silly
matter.
things.
But the attempt was to keep these two
Right.
even.
But
So
then X, no.
freehand things can happen, but point being, we can still make this work. So you can balance things out. Now, if I have created this and if I continue with my original plan of making everything center aligned, the existed is going to look way too out of alignment. So I could balance this out by deliberately changing the alignment to create blank spaces artificially. Okay, so now automatically it doesn't look like this was and this was not deliberate. And the last one is give more importance to you because I have this extra space and make wish slightly smaller. And now this space looks like it was deliberate. So these are tricks that you have to play around with. That's the whole point of the small format, and also to see what look for solutions at every point rather than staying fixed with one idea and then just pushing it and finally saying, "Are you know what? Don't look at this. Everything else is beautiful, but don't look at this." You don't have to say that. At every point, you can choose how your artwork is going to progress. And the more flexible you keep your starting point, the easier your end point would come with whatever unexpected results you might have. Okay, so these are the points, and I just want to show you something that I did before on the post-it where I guess things went better. So either ways it works. Now, I just want to demonstrate what happens if we were to play with any of these. Alignment, you've already seen what you can do. But suppose we try to play with size and proportion. You need not take my word for it that size and proportion matter in a certain way. But let's see if we write the word um, the things you wish larger and create an existed smaller, and we will go beyond the 1:3 ratio. So you guys can also do this. Deliberately make the things rather large and leave very little space for creative. Every time you write, you should look at how much space you have left. That's a nice quote, right and left. So if you feel that INGS is not going to fit over here, you can try to do some fun stuff with it, like I can be a small a letter with a dot, and I could attempt to make an N shape like this. This is what graphic designers love to sit and do. Now, even G and S can be connected. And I don't do too much of this because it interferes with the quote itself. But some days you want to do something and nothing works out. You just get so frustrated that I knew this word is not going to fit in, but yet I chose to take this step. So how am I going to save this? Now that I've already gone and made the two words in two different fonts, here's another point I can make. The choice of lettering styles in one piece keep it limited. If there are 6 words, you don't need 6 different lettering types. Each lettering type becomes like a fresh new person. So if you're going to use 6 different lettering types, your brain needs to be introduced to each of them, and it takes a little time to appreciate it. So now what do I do with something like this? I can think of ways in which the same principle will work, but in the word you. So I can't do anything with Y. So I'm just going to leave it like this. And you can be the other sad disadvantage is that when you write something very creatively like that, you will meet that one person who has no appreciation for creativity and say, "Arey, but I can't read this. What is the point in your writing this? We should be able to read it." And you wish you hadn't met that person, because it is admittedly a little difficult to read, but it is not. I mean, you can use a little bit more than you have been taught to use of your brain for lettering. At least
But
that is my.
and people can put two and two together, for heaven's sake.
They
It can
can.
be anything like THI, and I mean, someone will say, "Oh, that looks like half a W." It doesn't make sense. You don't say half a W,
Exactly.
it doesn't make sense.
So I have faced this so often, and I have felt really bad that I am not doing my job properly. And I have allowed people who actually no fault of theirs are ignorant of lettering to make me feel bad. So as I grew older, that's again the greatest bit about growing older, is that you really don't care.
Absolutely, you don't care.
So now at my age, I just have to very politely tell them that, look, this lettering is not for average people. So you choose your choices. You want to be average and say, "Oh, I don't get it. I'll write it simply for you." But this is meant for people who would be a little more, like whatever.
No, you have to that kind of an exercise where you leave out half the letters, and you get all those puzzle things.
Yes.
And you put that in, then you're supposed to be very smart if you can guess everything. You put
Yes.
that up and say, "How many points do you get in this?" Accordingly, you can read my lettering.
It is, and it's not there. So I feel sometimes that people like to, of course, everyone likes to feel that they're really smart, yes. And when you are confronted with something that challenges that belief that you have, you want to prove that there's something wrong with that system. I have done that. I think I am really smart. So when somebody says something that doesn't compute with my brain, I'm out there trying to prove them wrong instead of saying, "Wait a minute, just come back again. I need to understand this better." I have been that. So I don't blame people for finding fault in this. But
Absolutely,
it
been there.
should, yeah, but it shouldn't stop you from experimenting. That is what I'm trying to say. You don't need to justify creative lettering to anyone, and you do not need to dumb it down for the one who is the one person amongst 10,000 people who will make an issue of it. I think most people will enjoy the challenge and at the very least, at least appreciate you for doing something creative and different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as long as it's you, Aditi, where your lettering is creative. It shouldn't be bad where you can't read it like me.
No, it's going to be bad in the beginning. I'm telling
Yes,
you,
yes.
my lettering was horrible. So you have to just say, okay, this is one bad thing out of the way. Let me get rid of the next 9,999.
I know, but
Then
I
I
can't afford to
practice.
fight with them and say like you're dumb. Yeah, my writing is bad.
Oh no, it's beginner. I'll find something where your writing also works. By the way, Shakespeare's writing was horrible.
I know lots of the geniuses there, right? They don't have
Yeah.
patience to do all that.
Correct. So you can say either, yeah, it's like my friend used to have this little fridge magnet that said, look, either the house can look beautiful or me. So I don't have time for both. Okay, so now let's try. I've already messed up my alignment where it started becoming top heavy, and I'm going to write the word create really small over here, but I'm paying attention to the alignment. I'm trying to keep it center aligned as best as I can, but it won't matter because you won't even see the word create. The things you wish will loom much larger and existed. So it is not wrong to make this, but it is, if this is a choice, you should know that the larger letters are just going to get more importance. So you can deliberately choose to make lettering such that some letters get much more importance than the other letters. Now, the best quote for this is blood is thicker than water. Have you heard of this quote?
Of course.
But apparently, I recently read that it is completely misquoted and misunderstood because only part of it has already always been quoted. The
Mm.
entire statement says the blood of the
The water of the womb.
yes, and that means the opposite exactly.
Opposite of what we actually mean it. I mean, take it to be.
Correct.
So
And
strange. I was shocked.
exactly, and
Anyway,
I thought,
it's
my
like, oh
goodness,
God,
for years I
so
have
bad.
heard, I have heard this argument that why do I side with my family and not with whoever, my spouse? And they say, no, blood is thicker than water. Wait a minute, maybe not. The blood of the covenant, right? Covenant is thicker than
Then the water of the womb.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's actually meant to say that when you are together in a common cause, which is bonded with a common ideology, that bond is thicker
Like
than
the
even
And
if you are brothers
family.
and
bond
by
to
blood.
someone, whatever.
That is what it's meant to state. So, in this sense, of course, they have completely omitted the words, but imagine I'll give you the statement and try writing it and reduce the size of the words which have been omitted, and then you will not see them. And this will make a very interesting quote to put up. And somebody reads it and said, oh my God, are you serious? This is what the quote is. The words are there, they're just not visible. We can practice writing the proportion other than 1 is to 3 and still make an impact. So the quote is
Water of the
the blood of the covenant, right? Is anyone checking this? I'm just going to leave this word and check it one more time.
Checked it. Covenant.
Yeah.
Covenant.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is.
Mm. Water of the womb. Now, this is a big quote. Well, let's try making it in that square anyway. So, the words that we have to make thicker.
Yeah. Blood
Blood is
is
thicker
thicker
than water.
than water. That's it.
So those are the words we need to write really big. And the rest, the of the covenant and of the womb, have to be smaller. Blood is thicker than water. I'm just going to highlight this so nobody is confused. Blood, oh my god, is thicker than water. Okay, if you want to make it in rough and try it out. So we can do something like this. Blood. So the blood uh, of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So in this now I want to show you there are technically four types or three types of lettering styles. You have one which is all caps small, two all
All
caps
caps.
big, and then you have the third running hand. Just these three, and they are also connected in that the covenant and womb have the same style, so that you establish that they are corollaries. And then, of course, you have all these articles and prepositions, they become one thing. And of course, our code, blood is thicker than water, just is the code that we are trying to highlight. Okay, now that we know that, if you really want to put want to make things much more refined, again you can use pencils to give yourselves a baseline. The blood of the covenant is thicker, so I'm giving two lines to the fat letters. Blood is thicker than water. Water will be here, and then of the womb can come like this, and in this case of the covenant can come here. So smaller letters you don't really need to write both lines, but when you have large letters it helps to have a capital line and a base line. Whatever happens, try to keep your letters away from the edge a little bit. Even if your letters become big and small, that's fine. In my book, if I were to make a code of conduct for lettering or even compositions, this would be a worse crime, touching your letter to the edge, than making some letters big and small within the same word. That's a lesser crime. That's like petty compared to going and touching one letter all the way to the edge. No, that will not be allowed. Okay, now I'm adding a third, no, a fourth lettering style because the blood had to be a little bigger. Now, in some cases, you can choose to go for an what might be called an onomatopoeic design idea. You can make the word thick, so the letters can be thicker. So it represents the word it is trying to describe. Similarly, when you write it in color, the letters for colors can be written in those colors. That's an easy way to draw attention to the meaning of those words. That is thicker than water. I need to put in a the over there as well. So I'm going to make than the. We cannot compromise on grammar also. Huh? So if an article is required there, please put it. And I could have made my off the covenant much smaller, but I haven't by mistake. It's still almost 1/3 of blood. I'll change that here. So the small letters are much smaller than these, and if I were to cover the capital letters, or even with the capital letters, you don't pay much attention to this. This could easily look like some kind of decoration. But what does stand out is blood is thicker than water. So
I did this, but well, it's not very. I made a mistake actually. Should have been bigger. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? Then I
That
realized,
is thicker.
oh, Dan is one of the things. So
Yes.
blood is thicker. Dan has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just blood is thicker. Water is what I can see.
Correct. True.
Blood is thicker. Water is it? Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay. Now the other list that I'm going to give you, this is one kind of quote. You have regular inspiring quotes, or you can get a statement like this, which you can play around with from maybe a book or something. Then there are funny quotes, which you can also, if you want, add some illustration to within this same thing, but it should not be so overpowering that you एक तो take too much time. So in the doodle a day exercise, everyone has been making amazing illustrations, no doubt, and I love them. So that is one idea where you write the quote on one side and then you also have illustrations on the other, and you can be as involved in that as possible. But more often than not, for a daily exercise, you won't have that much time. So how do you incorporate an illustration into a quote, especially if there are places like just a blank space you want to fill up? So you can just do some kind of flower or vine design and fill it up. That works very well. Maybe make a border or something. But if you want to make it more meaningful, you don't need to make the whole thing. You can create maybe a small illustration that speaks of that item. Like, for example, in the case of blood is thicker than water, how are you going to show blood and how are you going to show water? And then sometimes you just get so caught up and you say, okay, how do I show blood is thicker than water? And then you'll try to think of some way in which that thickness will be shown, and then it's like you are in the wrong house completely. You just don't have to go into the literal meaning of things. The literal meaning is literally spelled out, so you don't have to use pictures to spell out the meaning of the spellings of the words that you have spelled out. So let's not go there. So think of something small and something that will add to the illustration, to the lettering. It should not distract from the illustration. So don't make something that is so ornate that the letters then lose their importance on paper as well. When you say things like blood, do not think about I should make the person clearly know this is blood and not water, so I'm going to make a syringe. Do not put syringes in things like this. We don't want it. But if you think about a teardrop shape, just a teardrop shape or a couple of teardrop shapes are usually enough. They are just an embellishment to make the picture look a little decorative. And blood can be also liquid, a teardrop, and water can also be liquid and a teardrop. समझने वाले को इशारा काफी है. That is all you have to say and finish it off.
Or maybe you could just color it red.
You don't even need to do that. That's what I'm
Meaning
saying.
that
So
word. Yeah, just
because no,
yeah.
yeah, so if you do land up coloring everything, then fine. But if you are going to color it for somebody else to understand, you need to stop there. Don't bother about that. Whenever you have text which is written in a very small format, we do have more time to read it than, say, if you're reading a 200-page novel. If you write a 200-page novel like that, there's a good chance that only graphic designers are going to read it. Everybody else is going to be so tired after 5 pages that they're never going to pick it up. So don't do that. But in this case, I'll just show you one small addition that I think should be enough. So I could make one big teardrop over here, or I could make a couple, and those two don't have to be the same size. That's it. And you can make whatever you want of this. I don't need to do anything more than this to indicate the liquid nature of the two that we are speaking about. Okay. So now coming to the other kinds of things that you can write. Have you heard of, we've done this before, these are called paraprosdokian statements. This is a very, very made up word. Somebody has gone and decided I'm going to put some of my school Latin to use. Paraprosdokian statements are statements that start. Paraprosdokian. I have missed an S in this. These are statements which you would start off very typically. You've heard this before, but at the end there is a twist. Like, for example, someone says, if there is a will, then we've heard it say, if there's a will, there's a way. And you say, okay, fine, this is what it's going to be. But a paraprosdokian statement would be, if there is a will, I want my name in it. That becomes a twist in the tale. Then you say some days are good, and then someone says, okay, some days are bad. But you can say some days are better. So that changes it altogether. So I'm going to send you a list of these paraprosdokian statements. Some of them are just statements like this. Somebody's taken a quote and twisted it around. Some are actual lines from movies. And we know of a lot of people, a lot of comedians who've used this kind of twist in the end of the statement to make a point. I've had a perfectly wonderful evening, but this wasn't it. This was by Groucho Marx. So, what else I remember this one by Ivana Trump. She says, when you, if your husband is going to leave you, don't get mad, get everything. That was really cute. So these are very cute, maybe even words said by people, and you might be tempted to make their illustrations. Go ahead and do it. It looks very nice to have a cute little illustration of a person saying it, maybe in a speech bubble or something, works perfectly well. But our focus has to be on the statement itself. How can the statement say what it is saying, giving the right emphasis? Let me look for one statement that I'll put on the group. Okay, why on the group? I'll just write it down. This is so cute. Now, there will be the name of the person who is attributed for this quote also. I just love this because um, I know the feeling of nostalgia. And this person goes to say, this is by a person named Peter de Vries.
It's a wonder he didn't say nostalgia ain't.
Ain't
It
what it used to be.
goes.
Yeah, I think that is
It
cute.
just goes with it,
Yeah,
because he says what it used to be, just part of that, the way of speaking.
true.
Just
I think that's
actually.
cute. Let me find some more. So, if you were to put a picture for the word nostalgia, what would you put? Think about it. Don't say it, just make the picture because you'll have to think about leaving some space for that. This is a nice one. Yeah, that's really cute. So I make these inspiring quotes for my daughter, and just because I'm such a senti letter aficionado. So whenever she comes, or as frequently as I can, I wouldn't lie and say whenever. But when she was going to college last year in August, I was feeling so sentimental, and I felt, oh my God, I've not taught her everything I want to teach her. Now she's going away. She was 19 years old, so I don't think I had any chance to teach her anything new, any case. But I felt, just what if I were to give her something? I don't want to give her a book she doesn't read, so I won't be calling her. So I started writing these quotes on post-its, because I do that for myself. And I've always loved writing inspiring quotes on post-its and putting them up all over, so that whenever I pass, I say, that is not, that I had forgotten that, and I'll remember. Because I've had bouts of extreme depression, not like clinical depression, but there are those days when you just look out and the sky is wonderful and the sun is shining and you just feel like down in the doldrums. That happens to me very often, or used to, at least in the past. So I used to write these, and these are not like words of affirmation. I literally wrote them because I enjoy lettering, and that itself would keep me uplifted. Just do something that makes you happy, you will become happy. It's a simple equation. So I did not dwell too much on the fact that, oh my God, now I'm depressed, what do I do? Just snap out of it, because that was what my mom used to say. They were, I think my parents were both very impatient with any kind of illness or anything. So unless I had a 104-degree temperature or something where they were forced to keep me at home and give me fluids and whatnot, they would just say, just walk it off. So when it came to a time when as a teenager I was very brooding, and my dad would just say, what is wrong with you? My mom would say, either eat something or go for a walk. There are only two solutions. You sweat it out or you put something inside your body. That's it. And for the most part, it worked. So I didn't do too much more than that for my kids as well. I sometimes feel if you focus too much on the problem just expands itself. That is not to say people who are actually suffering are not, and I don't want to trivialize that, because I know of a lot of people who've gone through severe depression and problems with that, and nothing seems to lift them up. So I fortunately was not in that category. So the point I was trying to make is that these statements sometimes can be like when they say, if you're looking for a solution, just open any book and your solution will be there in it. It's because you are looking for a solution. So very often I found that when you put these statements around the house, they are certain pick-me-ups, and your eye will go to that and you just feel, okay, I had forgotten. I have probably just let myself be dragged into the mundane too much, and I just needed to do 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and I'll be back on doing something that is going to fulfill me. And you can do it. Then you don't need somebody else externally to come and give you some counseling. You can start becoming that for yourself. So try it. Just put up. I put up some stuff over here. Sometimes there are to-do lists. Sometimes they are recipes, and sometimes they are pick-me-ups. So I'm going to show you even my recipes. I cannot bear to write more than what fits in a post-it. So I won't even make anything that have too many processes. I'll just bring it for you. Till that time, I'm going to give you two quotes that I have done in an earlier class, which maybe you could try as well. So this was ours, and these were the two quotes from the Saturday class. Dig the well before you're thirsty. I found this quite nice. And this was the proportion study. Here you can see how things look different. Okay, and I'll get you the recipes.
No, not yet. Still not either. Yes.
Okay, these are my Oh, sorry. This is my sourdough pita. This is my sourdough timing, the one that's worked best. This is the best brownie recipe that you can ever get, and it's very mathematical in that way because everything is half, 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 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, half, half, half. And this 2 is in multiples of 5, so 35 minutes. 5 times 35 is 170, isn't it 5? No, it's 10 or it's 20 or something like that. And that helps me to do this without having to do 1 teaspoon of this, 3/4 of this. That's it, you've lost me. I cannot do that. So that again over here, my granola recipe is the best for me. One, half, 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 finished. Not too many mathematical calculations required here. So this makes cooking also very easy, and for me, because I'm very visual, I need pictures or I need just simple math. And are there any quotes? All the quotes are with my daughter. I should send you pictures of that. All right, now one last bit I want to show you is how to use the quotes or the lettering that we have done in the past 3 weeks. So we've done Roman lettering, we have done Gothic, and we have done that running hand. So I don't want to say that these three you have to only learn formally, and when you're making the post-its, you have to only do them in a more contemporary style. But what I would advise is that use those scripts sparingly. Definitely try to use them, but don't go what's the word? All out and make the entire quote in those. They are definitely more decorative. So going by the hierarchy that we have established, when there is a word that needs that importance, go for the fancy lettering styles. You can mix upright print letters with running hand letters on a slant quite easily. It's really not there's no rule that says one or the other should not be used. So I want to just demonstrate this one thing. A small quote maybe can be used to show you how these might work. Oh, one second, my page has changed.
Maybe you can do carpe diem.
Yeah,
Too short.
that's too short, I think.
Oh.
Something slightly bigger might.
So the one I have is carpe the hell out of the diem.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
I've got it hanging up.
The one that I read was, I don't feel like um I want to carpe the DM today.
Yeah, yes. That's also a good one.
Okay, so
But
this,
I like that one which you had on. If you cannot decide, the answer is no.
yes,
Perfect.
yeah. Carpe the hell out of the DM. This has been used so much in movies in
Yeah.
the last decade also.
I got a little bored. Let me just see it's hanging.
Yeah, it was everywhere. But I like these. I like where they've taken the Latin and then just added whatever they wanted. And somebody saying in a movie, oh, there's a lot of DM to carpe. That was cute too. Okay, I am making a smaller square this time
See,
because
this, have a look.
one second, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's of this DM.
Of this DM. I like that. Okay, so we have these letters that we've done in the past. I just want to go over them once, so um, it might remind you of what we are looking at. So these are nice formal Roman letters which you can use in places like this. Then we have the Gothic script, which is quite distinctive and it brings to mind old manuscripts. So if you have words which have things like God, or in this case hell, you can go to the Gothic script. And this, of course, you can write anything in it, but again, because we want to use so much space, you shouldn't use both in the same script, in the same uh, words are missing now, in the same theme. Sorry. So the words carpe diem are important, and they are Latin, and they should get prominence. But hell also is important. The out of all these are not as important. So I can write something like this. We have to assume that I have measured out my 5 pen widths, so I know how tall the letters are going to be, and given myself a baseline and all of that. That you please assume. Like Hindi movies, they make you assume a lot of things. I have already done this. Carp. I'm changing the spelling of carpe diem.
Yeah, that's okay.
Just so that I can write the word. One sign of being very sincere in practicing these formal calligraphic scripts is that you will make spelling mistakes because you're focusing so much on the stroke that you've not paid attention to the letter. So eating up letters is very common. Okay, so this becomes more readable. Now, if I had gone and made the and out of this or any of these words in Gothic as well as the open shaded, it would become so many things that neither of them would get any attention. So limit the choice of lettering styles. Look for relevance. Connection. And context. Okay, any questions? So have you recognized some of your hurdles, let's say? If you have, then maybe you could just write them down in the back. Uh, common hurdles are just getting the shapes of the letters the way you want them. So that becomes one. Second, baselines keep shifting. Somebody's baseline, I know of, it always goes up by like 10 degrees, always. And her verticals are also leaning towards the left just 10 degrees or like 7 degrees, and she doesn't know why. So that is something that we need to work on. Then understanding space itself. So if you don't have a pencil and you have to do this writing thing, that throws you off. That is a big issue. So that can happen. It can become an issue in the beginning and remain so only because you are inflexible. You might start the statement from the first word. That is not always necessary. You can start words in between, like in the case of the second um, composition that I made. I started with the things you wish, and then I wrote create and existed. So it doesn't have to start from the first word. You need to find the biggest word that you have and then start with that. And based on that, then you can make all the other letters. Then is also you have to figure out how much space each word or each sentence can potentially take. Once your composition is ready in your mind, you can look at words and say, okay, I'm going to stack these two here, and how to stack letters or how to position them is an exercise in graphic design, no doubt. But you have to find balances where there are certain simple things like your baselines should match. If you have two letters, two words, one on top of the other, and there's another word next to it, those words must have some kind of correlation between their baselines or the height of the letter or the top of the capitals or something like that. So you will start seeing all of that even without training. I did not go to graphic design school, but I worked as a graphic designer, and I have literally bungled my way through all sorts of layouts. But it is in the end you will start seeing some things make sense to you. And as we go along, of course, we are going to do a lot of lettering next month in the travel batch, so you will get some practice over there as well. The key is to just find those 5-10 minutes to practice the lettering. And then next month, when this starts on Tuesday again, I think Tuesday is the 1st of April, I will be sending a quote like how I have written a quote here, just in regular text. Hopefully, I can hold myself from making some composition in that also. And if you have any questions, then during class, just ask me and I'll sort it out for you even then. Now, the second question.